Welcome to part 2 of the Retopo Academy. In part 1, we covered some key concepts, so if you haven't watched it yet, be sure to check it out. While this video also includes some concepts to explain, it's more hands-on compared to the previous one. As I mentioned in part 1, there are plenty of high-quality tutorials from professionals out there, but if you're looking to learn from someone closer to your level, you are in the right place. Now, with that said, let's get to it. Hello everyone, I'm Nemesis from Mango85. Welcome to my channel. For part 2 of the Retopo Academy, we'll be diving into hands-on practice to deepen our understanding of edge loops and how to control them. We'll also cover main loops and poles. I'll be demonstrating 3 examples to help clarify the importance of these concepts we discussed so far. I don't want to keep you waiting, so let's get started. In the previous video, we talked about how edge control refers to how well the flow of edges is managed within the topology of a mesh. In this video, I want to show you what this means and the importance of understanding how to control the flow of your loops. In the bottom left corner, you will see the keys I pressed, but anyways, I will try to call them out loud so you can pay attention to what I do rather than looking down to the keys I pressed. With Shift A, I will add a plane. Pressing 7 on the numpad, we can move to the top view. You can also press the tilde key to get the spy menu. From here, we can press tab to go to edge mode. I'm using machine tools to get the spy menu. You can also click here to enter edit mode. Once in edge mode and the whole plane selected, I will do a right click to choose subdivide. Down here, you will have the option to add more subdivisions, but I like to press Shift R a couple of times to repeat the last action. We want to control the flow of our loops. In here, we have only quads. You might remember what they are from the first video. If I press Ctrl R, we can see how the edge loop flows through all the quads with no issues. But let's imagine I want a loop flowing in this direction, because you will have situations while doing retopology in which you want to reroute the flow of your loops, and this is a common thing to do, for instance, when you don't want a loop to travel throughout the whole model. Sometimes you want the edge to begin in one area and finish in the one you choose. To have this flow of loops, I use 2 ways. One is a more technical, moving vertices and edges, and the other one is more manual, and this is the one I normally use. The reason is because I think in advance how I want my loops to flow. So when I do this by adding quads, it's less confusing than having to move vertices and edges later on. Anyways, you will have situations in which your quads are already placed and you need to reroute the loop in a different direction, and that is when this becomes handy. So we want to route our loops in this direction. To do this, I take the 2 outer corner edges describing the flow I want. Now I press M to have the merge menu and click on Accenter. I move to vertex mode, and what I like to do is to arrange the verts in a better position. In the snapping menu, I switch from face to vertex. I want to place the vertex in line with these 2, so I press G to move, followed by X to constrain the movement along this axis, and position the mouse on top of one of these vertices and hold Ctrl, then left click to confirm, and I proceed to do the same, but this time along the Y axis. In edge mode, we can better see what is going on now. And we found these 2 triangles, but we need only quads. So what I will do is to select the group of edges, then press X and click on Dissolve Edges. You can also do this by pressing Ctrl X. So now we have what we were looking for. If I press Ctrl R, the edge is flowing the way we want while keeping quads on the rest of the mesh as expected. Let's say I want to do the same but flowing down this way. So I will just do the same by taking the outer edges on the corner, merging, positioning, and dissolving the edges I don't need. With this, we have achieved the same result while keeping the quads in the rest of the mesh. For the more manual way, which is what I normally do, I will select an edge and duplicate it with Shift D. Let's say I want the loop to flow in this direction. I already have this plan while doing a retopo, so what I do is to extrude and shape my quads to follow that direction. I move vertices and rotate the edges to keep a better shape. What I've done is to place the quads keeping in mind the direction I want my loop to take. From here, I can just take the edges and extrude them with E to have something similar to the one on the left. Now I can select two vertices, press M and merge them. Since I have machine tools, I can select the vertices and press 1 to merge them quickly. As you can see, we have achieved the same result but with two different approaches. This one, as I said, is the one I use because I planned in advance while doing retopology. No worries, because later I will show you a real example of this. It is good to know both ways and they will become handy based on the situation. We can now move to the next example about edge control. This next exercise will better display the importance of controlling the loops. I learned this from a tutorial some years ago but can't remember which one it was. If you know, please let me know in the comments. This exercise was very helpful for me to understand retopology and edge control, and I want to share it with you. With Shift A, I will create a new plane and go to edge mode. I press Ctrl R to add an edge loop in the middle, and from the side view, 3 in the numpad, I then press G to move and Z to do it along this axis and bring this part up. From here, with the edge selected, I press E to extrude and begin extending the shape. Then with R, I rotate according to the direction I want the mesh to have. So now, let's say I want the plane to flow in this direction and this one on that one. We will need to break a bit what we have in order to achieve this. We currently have a nice flow of quads, so we need to make sure that this is kept when we break the path and divide it. To do this, I will enter edge selection mode, and I will take this edge and extrude it to the direction I want, and I will do the same to the other one. The important thing to remember here is this sort of diamond shape that we will make and will allow us to begin changing the direction of the loop. In vertex mode, I will take one of these two verts and I will extrude it with E to form the diamond shape. And if you still have the snapping in vertex, you can move with G and hold Ctrl to snap it to this vertex. And with the auto merge enabled, you don't need to worry about having double vertices. Remember, you can also merge pressing M and choosing one of the options. I can now select all the vertices and press F to fill the face. If you cannot complete this operation, make sure to install the native Blender add-on F2. Let's adjust the shape to match the rest. Select the vertex, then G, Z, and hold Ctrl over this vertex to snap it. Again, in edge mode, I will begin extruding the shape. I do some small adjustments. I'll begin extruding the other side. We now have this shape, but I see that something went wrong with the position, so let me fix that first. This is better. In object mode, I will press Ctrl 2 to add 2 levels of subdivision and do right click and smooth. So now we have this shape, but I would like to have the top of it sharper. To do this, I will be using loops, and this is when controlling them starts to work in our favor. With Ctrl R, I will add an edge loop here and move it up, and one for the bottom part, and repeat the same over the other side. In object mode, we can better see the results of this operation, but this is not complete because on this side we still need to add another edge loop and we will face an edge control issue, but we will correct it. Back in edit mode, with Ctrl R, I'm adding a new loop, but this one is not going in the right direction. The same happens to this one. To solve this, I will first disable the subdivision in edit mode so you can better see what I'm doing. I'll begin by adding a loop and move it to where I want to have it, and I will select the ones going across the diamond shape since I don't need them and press Ctrl X to dissolve them. And I will add a loop on the other side and put it in place. This face is now an N-gun because it has 6 edges and we don't want that, so I will select the face and press X to remove it. From top view and in edge selection mode, I select these 2 edges and with Ctrl E, I click on Bridge Edge Loops and now we have a connection between the two. Here we have another issue to solve since we end up with a triangle, but this is an easy one. With Ctrl R, add a loop here and now we have 4 edges, meaning that this is now a quad, and with them selected, I press F to fill the face. Now we have to solve this one here, and we have a quad, but the direction will interrupt the flow we are looking for. Just let me show you. As you can see, when adding a loop, this one is being routed in the wrong direction. Let's fix it by removing the face, and I will also do the same to this one. From the top view and in vertex mode, I will rearrange the shape, and with this middle vertex selected, I press E to extrude it and do the same with the one next to it. In edge mode, what I can do now is to select the edges and press F to fill all these faces, and now we have only quads, and as you can see, the edge loop flows as expected. I quickly do some corrections to the position of some vertices. Back in object mode, we can see how nice the shape looks, with their sharp areas flowing in the right direction. Knowing how to control your edges is an essential part of retopology, as this is important for our next concept to cover. In retopology, a main loop is a primary edge loop that follows the key contours of a 3D model and defines its structure. These loops are critical for establishing clean topology that will deform well during animation, particularly in character models. Main loops create predictable flow in the mesh, enabling natural movement and making it easier to add detail in specific areas without affecting the overall shape. For example, when working with a human head, some of these main loops are eyes loop, the one around the mouth, the nose bridge loop, the one passing around the jawline, and the one around the ear. In a well-designed retopology, main loops are strategically arranged to flow smoothly around the model's features. However, poles, which are vertices where 3 or more edges converge, play a significant role in guiding this edge flow. The most common poles in main loops include 3 poles and 5 poles. 3 pole, typically where edge flow starts or redirects, found near areas like the nose bridge. 5 pole, often used at areas where several loops converge, like around the jawline or cheeks, helping loops to transition naturally across the face without unnecessary stretching. To close this part 2 of our Retopo Academy, I'm switching from Blender 4.2 to the 4.0, and the reason is because I will be using RetopoFlow for the next exercise, and I have the free version and this one does not run on Blender 4.2. Having covered edge control and main loops, we can put that in practice, and for that I will be using this sci-fi helmet sketch. I already decided that the parts will be separate, and for this part of the video I will work with the one on the top. This one has this part that is sharp, and I need to achieve this by controlling the loops, so I will keep this in mind when placing my quads. I also need to make sure that there is an edge flowing at the bottom of the mesh to make this one sharp. We can now apply what we've learned and see how I do it in a real project. As I said, I will be using RetopoFlow, the free version. I will leave the link in the description. Maybe because it's the free version, this one is not running on Blender 4.2, or because they are now working on RetopoFlow 4. Please bear in mind that this is not a tutorial about this tool, so I will not be covering how to use it. I will activate the symmetry. This way I just need to work on one side of the model. When doing retopology, the first quads you place should be your main loops. Once you have figured out this part, the rest of the work will be easier since you only need to focus on the connections. I will begin with the first loop at the top. Make sure to use less polygons. This will make it easier when connecting your quads, and later you can just add edge loops to have more resolution on your model. I have placed my first main loop around the area I want to make sharp. Now I could easily add an edge loop knowing that this one will be flowing as intended. Now I can do the one at the bottom, and while keeping in mind the flow I want, I also try to match the number of quads I have on the top with the ones being created, so it is easier to connect them later. Don't need to be 100% accurate since we can always make adjustments. We have our main loop where we want it. Now it is easy to connect the quads together and retopologize this part of the model. I keep the model with a low number of quads to quickly connect them. We have now something that works, with the edges where we want them. From here, I can just add more edges to give more resolution to the model, as well as moving some of the vertices to follow the shape of the mesh. Here, I'm just pinning some edges so I can relax the vertices without moving these ones. Back in object mode, I isolate the view with the / key. With Ctrl 2, I add 2 levels of subdivisions, and with a right click I will shade smooth. You can already see some of the sharpness I was looking for, but since I planned my loops, I can now add more edges to make it even sharper. In edge mode and pressing Ctrl R, I add an edge loop where I need it. We can see how nice it looks. Okay, I need to correct this part. I can add a new loop at the bottom of the model. Another thing that we can do is to select this edge, press N to get to the end panel, and in Item we can increase the min crease to 1 to sharpen the bottom even more. Like this, we have a part of a helmet that works nicely, and what I can do now is to add a solidify modifier to give some thickness to it. We now have an object which is clean with some sharp and smooth areas thanks to the planning, controlling, and placing of our main loops. And that's it guys for part 2 of this video series. If you enjoyed the content, please consider to like, share, and subscribe. And if you have any suggestions to improve the channel, please let me know down below in the comment section. Thank you for watching and see you soon.